Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlene Margot, and I'm co-founder and CEO of nonprofit The Parent Venture. We are delighted to have with us tonight Carin Winter, who will be speaking with you and leading mindfulness exercises about cultivating mindful routines for the new year. Please join me in a really warm virtual welcome for Carin. Hi, Carin. Nice to see you.
Hi, thank you so much, Charlene, for the lovely introduction. And thank you, Bev, for being there on the chat and for all your support. Both of you have done a wonderful job. And we have a lot of folks signed up for this workshop. So thank you so much. So my name is Carin Winter. I founded Mission B in 2013. We've been working in Silicon Valley in New York, and we've impacted 28 states throughout the US in the past just over a decade. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually dialing in today from Palo Alto. I actually live back on Long Island, but I'm here for 20 days. And it's really exciting. Today I was at Mountain View High School, and yesterday I trained Los Altos and Mountain View teachers. And last week we were in Carmont, we'll be in Sequoia, we'll be at Tide Academy, Menlo Atherton High School. So we're in about 10 different schools over the next 3 weeks, all around Silicon Valley. So it's great to be back where I used to call home. I lived out here for 6 years. And I know a lot of folks that are tuning in tonight from this neighborhood. There's also people from all around the world because the Parent Venture Foundation has grown exponentially, which is really, really exciting. So I am going to present a PowerPoint. I will try to make it as interactive as possible with the chat, but this is more of a lecture type series, although we do have handouts that were shared. So I know that Bev is going to throw the handout in the chat so you can open it when we get into the practice section. Tonight's really going to be about teaching you mindfulness practices for the new year that you can utilize on your own as an individual, and that you can also share with your children and with your teens. So that's really exciting. I'm just going to pin my video here, and I'm going to spotlight it for everyone instead, actually. There we go. It always takes a moment to get set up, doesn't it? There we go. All righty, we're all set. So I want to share with you a little bit about the organization before we get started. And Charlene, sorry for not updating my bio, but at this point, we've actually impacted 320 schools and 330,000 students. So it's been quite a bit of work, and we're proud to say that we've also impacted not just 28 states, but 11 nations since the pandemic, through training online in partnership with organizations like UNICEF, as far as the Ukraine and Bali and parts of Africa. So it's been really, and South America. So it's really an honor to have the opportunity to do that type of work. And if you look at the background behind this data, there are 500 second through fifth graders quietly practicing mindfulness in a field. These students were actually practicing it for 2 Enya songs, which is about 8 minutes in silence after their 8-week course, which they completed. So we're going to show you some data a little bit later, but I always say this is the best anecdotal data you're going to get, just this photograph of these young folks practicing mindfulness. So we're going to learn a lot about mindfulness tonight and what it is. Essentially, mindfulness is the practice of being in the present moment on purpose without judgment. So you have around 60,000 thoughts a day, and 40,000 are the same as yesterday. That's an approximate number. So mindfulness is training attention. It's teaching us to focus, to learn how to be present. And mindfulness is not just a seated practice, but it's actually our interface with the world. So it's how do we treat ourselves? How do we treat others? How do we treat the person at the checkout at the grocery store? How patient are we with our partners, with our children, with our colleagues? And so mindfulness is something that we're going to learn how to do so we can create a morning practice, an afternoon, and an evening practice as we go through this course tonight. But we're also going to learn how do we integrate it into our lives. So I always say the best way to learn mindfulness is to try it. So we're going to come to a comfortable seated position, sit up nice and straight, place your hands on your lap, roll the shoulders back and down. So before we sit in stillness, we're just going to do a little bit of movement. Actually, let's bring our hands to our shoulders. We're going to inhale them up and exhale them back down. Another deep breath in, inhale, exhale, deep breath in, and deep breath out, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, and exhaling. Take your hands now, bring them to the back of the neck at the occipital ridge where the head and neck seem to meet at the end of your hairline there. You're just going to squeeze on the right side, come back to center and squeeze on the left. Many of us probably work at a desk, or even if we don't, we're probably holding tension in our shoulders. So we're going to inhale, look up, and exhale, come back down. Again, inhale, look up, and exhale back down. And then we're going to inhale back the other way, moving the opposite direction. So hopefully our children don't hear as much crackling as I'm hearing right now, or perhaps you're hearing. Good. And then you're going to take your right arm to your left shoulder blade and your left arm to your right shoulder blade. You're just going to inhale and exhale, curl the spine, look down. It's almost like you're giving yourself a great big hug, breathing in and breathing out, curling the spine. Breathing in and breathing out, curling the spine. And then go ahead and switch arms. We try to do everything on each side. So bring your opposite arm on top there again, and then inhale. Deep breath in, deep breath out, curl the spine. Good. And then release the arms out. And then you can just shake the wrists out and the shoulders, and then place your hands on your knees. So now I'm just going to invite you to softly and gently connect with your breath. I'm going to time us. I'm going to take out my timer here. We're going to do a short welcoming practice for about 4 minutes, just to get our feet wet with a little mindfulness. So shoulders back and down, heart is lifted, hands are on the legs, eyes are closed if you're comfortable. If for some reason you're not comfortable closing out your eyes, just have a soft gaze looking down. And so let's begin our practice. Simply anchoring in your breath, begin to notice where you feel the breath in your body. Take a slow, gentle, deep breath in, and a soft, gentle, deep breath out. Inhale, feel your belly rise. And exhale, feel the belly fall. Inhale, notice that when you breathe in, the breath is cool. And when you breathe out, the breath is warm. So breathing in cool air and breathing out warm air. Breathing in cool air and breathing out warm air. Begin to notice how your breath moves softly and gently, just like a wave in the ocean. It rises as you breathe in, and it softly and gently falls as you breathe out. Inhale, belly, lungs, and chest rise. And exhale, chest, lungs, and belly fall. Watching your breath just like a wave in the ocean, rising on the inhale and falling on the exhale. Now we're going to scan our body from head to toe. It's going to take a few minutes. So we're going to begin to relax the muscles in the face. So feel your jaw soften. Feel the eyes resting as if they're in cool pools of water. And feel the fluid nature of your head and neck. Remember that your body is 70% or more water. So feel that fluid nature of your head and neck. You can bring some gentle movements into the neck. And take a deep breath in through the nose and feel as if the breath is just cleansing the mind. And then relaxing the muscles around the ears and throat. Take a deep healing breath in, feeling the front of the body rise on the inhale. And then on the exhale, feel that wave of relaxation washing down your shoulders. Take another deep breath in through the front of the body, the belly, lungs, and heart rise as you inhale. And on the exhalation, just feel the wave of relaxation softly and gently washing down the spine. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Breathe in through the front of the body again. And then as you exhale, feel that wave of relaxation washing down to your palms and fingertips. Breathe deep into your belly. And then as you exhale, feel that wave of relaxation washing down your legs through the soles of your feet and the tips of your toes. And then simply let everything go, allowing yourself to rest in the stillness of your breath, feeling the breath move like a wave in the ocean. Feel it rising on the inhale and gently falling on the exhale. And we're going to sit together for 1 minute of silence, starting now. And softly, gently returning to your breath, bringing the attention to the rhythm of your breath, noticing how it moves softly and gently like a wave. Bringing your awareness back into the room, begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes, feel your body in the chair. And when you're ready, you can softly and gently open your eyes and return to the space. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that short practice. We'll be doing a little bit more of that later. I just want to share what I've witnessed so far in my lifetime as a social worker working with adolescents and children in schools. So I originally started my career working with children in foster care in the juvenile justice system that were considered hard to place. They had multiple failed foster home placements and then were placed in groups homes and residential treatment centers. And so I was seeing them weekly for counseling and therapy. And I found that it was effective, but what they needed was mostly what they needed was the skill to self-regulate, to regulate their emotions, to learn how to manage immediate stressors like someone they didn't get along with, or anxiety around a test, or peer conflict, or dealing with challenges with their families. And so I started integrating mindfulness practices into my groups and my individual coaching and counseling sessions and therapies. And I found tremendous success. Then I worked for a decade as a school social worker in a regular school in New York, public school in New York. And these children, they were adolescents and middle schoolers. They had a tremendous amount of academic pressure, peer pressure, social stress, uh, stress at home, and many students did not have the skills to self-regulate. And at the time, I was teaching and pushing in anti-drug curriculum and some SEL into the district that was given to us by the state. And although they did a wonderful job trying to create this content, I didn't feel that it was really giving the children the skills to self-regulate. So I started a pilot at our high school, and I thought maybe, 40 or 50 students would sign up. At the time I was in my 20s, this was 20 years ago. And we had, I think, about 656 students approximately signed up out of 1,200 students. So more than half the student body. So they did mindfulness once a week for 8 weeks, and we collected data, and the data just blew our minds. It was just so incredible. And so I started teaching mindfulness there and beyond. I went to the elementary schools, and we taught it to the kindergarten through 5th grade. And then a national news station did a special on us, which aired all over the country. And I got calls from Oklahoma and California and out west. And so I took a year leave of absence, and I've been doing that Mission B ever since. And so even today, we were in a school today. We worked with a small group of students, and we were training them to be mindful mentors, and they shared some of their stressors. And it's the same thing: academic pressure, peer pressure, technology is a big issue. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so my dad had a beeper, and that was as advanced as it got. And now students have everything on their phone, So I know I'm preaching to the choir here. We all know that this is very needed, and that's why you're here tonight. So I just wanted to share a little bit about my background there. So let's get into the PowerPoint here. So yes, mindfulness is a practice, just like anything else. Learning the violin. The first time you try it, you're not going to sound so great. People will be putting their hands over their ears, but eventually you get really good at it. And mindfulness is the same thing. The first time we sit and we do a practice, our mind just feels like it just can't stop thinking. But as we do it more frequently and more often, it becomes easier. We drop in more quickly, and we learn how to self-regulate so that when a stressor comes up, we can drop into our practice and manage that stressor with much greater ease. So I want to talk a little bit about everyday stress. As a parent who, as parents, you were out there, you have parenting responsibilities. Many of us have work responsibilities. Many of our children are overscheduled. We have tech overload. We have long to-do lists. So I think one of the hardest jobs, is to be a working parent. And so children pick up on our stress, right? And they have twice as much neural connectivity as we do. And a child's brain has so many neural connectors, right? So does ours, right? We now know that we can learn into late adulthood, that learning a new language into our 80s is going to help our brain, develop more neural connectivity. So it's not that we lose all our neural connectivity as we age, but when we're younger, we have so much that we are more adaptable, and we're also more vulnerable, which means a young child can adapt more easily to a new school or a new environment, but they're going to be more vulnerable. So if you move your child to a violent neighborhood or a peaceful neighborhood, they're more, likely to adapt those behaviors, right? So it's really important when we think about mirroring neurons that we think about how are we self-regulating our own stress as parents, because our children are going to be picking up on our stress. So I always tell parents at the start of these seminars that the best way we can teach our children mindfulness is really, truly to practice it ourselves. And a lot of tonight's workshop is going to be focused on just that, learning to cultivate our own practice first, and then learning to share it with our children. So a little bit of neuroscience here. And if you're with us last year, I think I had this slide on my last year's slide. But in the brain, you have the amygdala. It's the alarm center of the brain. You actually have one on both sides. And as you can see on the slide, it looks like a little purple bean. Doesn't look like that in real life. But it's a very small alarm center of the brain. So if you were living in Northern California and you were going hiking and you saw a mountain lion, right? Your amygdala would go off and you'd remember, I have to raise my arms and shout at this mountain lion, right? But there's no mountain lions walking around downtown, and hopefully not walking through our schools. However, there is the paper tiger. There's tests, right? There's deadlines. There's quizzes that come up all the time, unannounced, right? And the child's amygdala goes off. And when that happens, it floods their body with adrenaline and cortisol, and their hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and learning, just doesn't function as well. If you're running from a tiger and someone says, what's 24 times 17? You don't know because you're running from a tiger, right? Your prefrontal cortex also doesn't function as well, and that is responsible for higher order cognitive functioning, information processing, and basically all the subjects that we're learning in school. So it's really important that we protect the precious brain of a child because their brain continues to grow until they're 25 years old. It's 90% developed by 18, but it continues to grow as they go through college. I have a nephew right now that's in law school, and I keep telling him, listen, your brain's not fully developed right now. Stop stressing out. You need to learn how to relax and do mindfulness because we don't want your brain stressed. You have to protect that precious brain. So that's why it's very, very important. So when we are stressed, think of stressed, sympathetic, and peaceful, parasympathetic. So when we're in a stressed, nervous state, our heart's racing faster, our hands start to sweat, our blood sugar drops, we secrete epinephrine and norepinephrine, and it's not great to keep going and jumping into this sympathetic stress state. But with mindfulness, we can learn to train ourselves to get into a parasympathetic or a peaceful state. And the more frequently we practice this with little micro triggers, like we pass someone in the hallway that we don't like and we take a breath. Maybe that person just puts us into sympathetic and we take a breath and we bring ourselves into parasympathetic. Or we're driving on the 101 or the expressway, right? And someone stops short or someone tailgates. That's probably even more common, right? And we take a breath and we notice, oh, I'm getting back into sympathetic. And we learn by training our attention and training our breathing to jump back into this peaceful or parasympathetic state. And that's one of the goals of mindfulness is how do we learn? It's like a light switch. You can't have it on and off at the same time. You're either in one state or you're in the other. So with mindfulness, we're learning to train ourselves to respond mindfully rather than react. I'm going to stop my screen share for a second. So that's some of the neuroscience. I want us to get into the practices because you are here to learn a skill that you're going to take with you that you can practice in your lives. So I'm now going to share my screen again. I'm going to show you the handout because I want you to have access to it. And I'm going to throw this link back in the chat. So it's, oh, everybody's on it. I see all these little creatures there. Okay. I'm going to put it right back in the chat. So if people logged in late, it's right there. Okay. So you want to click on the handout. I'm going to share it. So here you have an overview of mindfulness. And you have the nervous system, what we just covered. And now here on page 4, okay, we have our mindfulness practices, all right? So I'm going to guide us through these 1, 2, 3, 4 breaths. I'm going to explain to you before we start exactly what these breaths are for and what some of the benefits are of these breaths. And then I'm going to guide you through the breaths so that you can utilize them in your life. So the first breath is the 5 and 5 breath. We've trained this to first responders over here at the Mountain View Police Department because if you're doing a 5 and 5 breath, it's creating a sense of relaxed alertness, right? So you can do this breath while you're driving the car, while you're stuck in traffic. It's not going to make you sleepy. The next breath is the 7, 2, and 8 breath. And actually, I had someone come to me today and say, that breath helped me fall asleep last night. This person had had like a kombucha at 8 o'clock and their bedtime was 10:30 and they didn't realize it had caffeine in it. They said, but I did the 7, 2, and 8 breath. And within a minute, I was knocked out and I slept till 6 a.m. I said, that's wonderful. So you breathe in for 7, you hold for 2, and you breathe out for 8. The ocean breath is the one we did at the start of class. I'm going to guide you through it. And the body awareness is you bring one hand to your upper chest, one hand to your belly, and you learn to sink into that. So as you're listening this time around, I want you to listen with what I call turnkey ears. And that's what I tell teachers when I'm teaching them these practices to bring to other students, is that I want them to listen to with these turnkey ears. So they're listening to me and they're enjoying it, but they're also thinking, how would I teach this to my child or my adolescent? Now, let me just say that if you're teaching your adolescents, again, the best thing to do is say, oh, I tried this for stress. If they're not open to it, approach them at another time when they tell you that they're stressed and say, maybe now would you like to try? Or, the best time to really reach teens especially is right before bed. Really, most of your children before bed, they're very open, they're tired, they're sleepy. It's almost like you're reading them a book. That's always a good time. Or before a big event that they're worried about, when they're open and they need a tool. All right, so you're going to close your eyes. You can lean back, relax yourself, enjoy. This will take about 5 minutes or so for us to go through these breaths, but at least now you know the benefits. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from one to the next to the next. All right, so find your seat, roll your shoulders back and down again. Bring your hands to the back of the neck again. Let's just squeeze on one side, squeeze on the other side. Let's interlock the fingers. Reach the arms all the way up. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Again, deep breath in. And deep breath out. Reach the palms forward. And then bring the arms back and down. All right, here we go. Let's get into our practice. So place your hands either like this, one on top of the other, or face down on your thighs. Let's take a deep breath in. And exhale with a sigh. Good. Deep breath in. And exhale with a sigh. You might notice when I teach neuroscience, I talk very quickly. So when I'm teaching mindfulness, I have to get out of that sympathetic, state and move myself into a parasympathetic state, because you too have mirroring neurons and you're going to feel my state as well. So just begin to notice your breath. Close the eyes if that's comfortable. We're going to breathe in for a count of 5. And breathe out for a count of 5. Breathing in, feel the belly, lungs, and chest rise as you inhale. And breathe out, feel the chest, lungs, and belly fall as you exhale. Inhale, feel the front of the body rise on the expansion. And fall as you let go. Inhale, rising as you breathe in. And exhale, falling as you breathe out. And as you breathe in and breathe out, think about something in your life that you're grateful for. And breathe with gratitude into your heart, feeling the heart rise on the inhale and fall on the exhale. Now we're going to deepen our breath. We're going to breathe in for a count of 7. Hold for a count of 2. And exhale slowly for a count of 8. Breathing in for 7. Holding for 2. And then breathing out slowly for a count of 8. And now I'd invite you to do the 7, 2, and 8 breath on your own for 2 breaths. Beautiful. Good job, everyone. Next is our ocean breath. So we're going to inhale and feel our breath rise like a wave in the ocean. Feel it rising on the inhale and gently falling on the exhale. Inhale, the ocean breath rises. Noticing that when you inhale, your breath is cool. And when you exhale, your breath is warm. Breathing in cool air and breathing out the warm air. And then placing your right hand on your belly and your left hand just above your heart, below your collarbone. Breathing in and breathing out. feeling the breath rise and fall. Slowly, the belly rises and the heart rises. Then the heart falls and the belly falls. As you breathe in and breathe out, just allow yourself to move to a place of peace and surrender, letting go, moving back to that place of gratitude and acceptance. Cultivating peace in this moment. And just taking 3 breaths in silence. Inhaling, belly, lungs, and chest rise. Exhale, chest, lungs, and belly fall. When you're ready, begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, and softly and gently open your eyes. All right, so that was the 3 breaths for the evening, the 5 and 5, 7, 2, and 8, ocean breath, and body awareness. And those 4 breaths are in your handout on page 4 to 5. If you look below that, there's mindful breathing techniques on page 5. I'm going to call it mindful breathing techniques on page 5. These are ones that you can share with your children and your teens. So those are some more techniques. I want you to scroll because we don't have time in this workshop to go through every single breath. So we're going to scroll all the way down to page 8. Actually, let's go all the way to page 9. Let's do the rainforest visualization tonight. So breaths tend to be like, anywhere between 1 and 2 or 3 minutes, typically, these breathing practices. So they're short. They're meant to be introductory breaths to just get our feet wet, get an intro into mindfulness. If you have a mindfulness practice or you have more time, you can start with these guided breathing practices and then sit in stillness for up to 20, 22 minutes. And what you would do is you would use your breath as an anchor. So your mind drifts off into thought and distraction, and then you return back to your breathing. So a normalizing breath is that in for 5 and out for 5, right? The 7, 2, and 8, again, is going to make you a little more sleepy because you're extending the inhale and the exhale. These breaths can also be done lying down. When we're new to meditation, I'm always a little reluctant to have people lie down because sometimes they just fall asleep. If you're also new to meditation, sometimes it helps when you're doing the breathing. If you don't want to close your eyes, if you have something in front of you, like I have like this little pot, like this little flower over here. So I might put this in front of me and focus on these flowers. Sometimes it's nice. Obviously, you don't want your children using candles, but you can get a fake candle for them. For yourself, you can use a real candle and just put it in front of you. And when you open your eyes or you get distracted, you can open your eyes and focus on the candle. I don't think music comes through very well over Zoom, so I tend to shy away from using music over Zoom. But music can also be a great anchor. So I like to think of anchors as things that bring us back to the present moment. So like your breath is your first anchor. Your mind drifts off into, I have laundry to do tonight. I don't know if I can stay on this class this long, right? And then you use your breath as an anchor to come back in the present moment. And so the flowers can be an anchor. The candle can be an anchor. Music, you can find all sorts of music on Spotify or iTunes. You can just type in meditation music, piano music, relaxing music, stress reduction, and all sorts of tunes come up. And there's been some research that's shown that some people like to meditate without music. Some people like to meditate without music. Some people like counting. Some people can't stand counting. Some people like to meditate in silence. Some people like to meditate with nature sounds, So you have to find kind of what works for you as you cultivate and develop a practice. A lot of the research does point to the longer that we can sit and breathe and focus our attention on our breath, the better that we're going to feel the benefits. Another thing that you could do as a practice while you're breathing is do an affirmation or word repetition. So you might say, breathing in, peace, breathing out, letting go. So most of the breath is in and out of the nose. Always when we're inhaling, the belly is expanding, and always when we're exhaling, the belly is deflating. So make sure that when you're teaching this, especially to young children, kindergartens, first grade, second grade, that they understand, even high schoolers, that they understand that when we inhale, the belly expands, and then when we exhale, the belly deflates. Inhale, it expands. Exhale, it deflates. Now, the majority of the breaths, I would say 90% of the breaths we teach are in and out of the nose, because that's where most of the research points to. It's like the mouth is for eating and the nose is for breathing. But there has been some more recent research that has shown that exhaling out the mouth has been very helpful in anger management. So the candle breath, for example, which you can find in your handout on page, I think it's on page 6. Yes, on page 6. We inhale through the nose. And then we exhale and we blow the breath out the mouth like we're blowing out a candle. Nice long exhalation. So again, inhale through the nose for about a count of 6. And then we exhale slowly. So the teacher said to me yesterday, I can't get to 8. And I said to her, well, you're breathing out too quickly. She's going like too much breath at the beginning of the exhale. So it's important that we slow the exhale. So we inhale and then exhale. See? Nice and slow exhalation. So that's the candle breath. Like I said, I don't have time to go through all of these breaths, so I want to explain a little bit more about the visualizations. So turn to page 8, and again, I think some people might have logged on late, but if you go to the chat, you'll see there's the Google Doc at the very bottom of the chat right now. So first, you're going to see the wave and sunlight visualization, and then below that on page 9, you're actually going to see the rainforest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this. I'll go off the script a little bit, but I want you to see my pacing. Like right now, notice the cadence of my voice. Notice how quickly I'm speaking. And then notice how much I slow down my cadence the moment I start doing mindfulness. I go from this like quick Long Island talker to this very slow mindfulness speaker, right? And it's not inauthentic. It's just that we're intentionally slowing down, right? Which is very difficult for many of us. Some of us are just born mellow and we move slow and everything's chill. And then you have people like me, type A, you're like, let's go, let's go, let's go. So I have to work hard to be mindful. So it's a daily practice, right? So close your eyes again. For this practice, I'm going to give you the opportunity to actually lie down because I think we're probably all a little sleepy, right? Midweek. So I invite you to lie down, but don't fall asleep because you'll miss the end of the seminar. All right, so close your eyes. When you hear the sound of the bell, bring all of your attention to your breathing. Place your hands on your belly and feel how the belly rises with the inhale and falls with the exhale. Now place your hands a little further up on the lower rib cage and sense how your rib cage expands with each inhale and falls with each exhale. Inhale, the rib cage and lungs expand, and exhale, they release. And then just rest your hands at your side and begin to deepen your breath. Go back to your normalizing breath, breathing in for a count of 5 and breathing out for a count of 5. Inhaling and exhaling. Notice how the breath moves in and out of your body. When we're present with our breath, we notice how it feels, sounds, and looks. Now we're going to harness the imagination of a child. Our children are imagination deprived, and it's really important that we teach them to tap into that imagination. So I'd like you to imagine that you're in a beautiful rainforest. You're there with your best friend or your favorite animal or someone that you trust and care about. And now imagine the sunlight coming through the trees, seeing the beautiful glistening light rain. And we're going to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. I notice the beams of soft sunlight entering the forest. Feel the sunlight on your face and feel your connection with all of nature. Become present with the sights and the sounds of the forest. Just being with your breath. Don't worry about anything that happened before this moment or anything in the future. Just deepen your breath, being right here, right now. And for the next 3 breaths, just stay with your breath in this moment. And then notice how it feels to be present in your body. Feel your body in the space, either in your chair or lying down, wherever you are. Feel the earth beneath you. And just bring your awareness back to this moment. Maybe bring movement back into your fingers and toes. And when you feel ready, softly and gently open your eyes. All right. So going back to the handout, let me just share my screen again. Okay, here we go. We're going to look, so below these, below the one I just read, the rainforest visualization, there's a deep progressive relaxation, which is great to read to your children before bed because they're lying down and it's really nice. And then before that underneath that are some movements. If you're interested in learning more about the movements, you can send me an email and I will send you some video links to learn how to teach those. But we're not going to have time to do all of that this evening. And before that is some tips on personal practice. So I'm going to switch back over to my PowerPoint. And I want to speak a little bit to this. All righty, here we go. All right. So mindfulness, like I said, children mirror behavior. And so it's really important that we take time to care for ourselves, right? So it's nice if you're going to create your own routine with or without your children, that you can make a mindful space. Now, this doesn't mean you have to add an addition to your home or your apartment or wherever you live, right? It means that you can take this little vase of flowers, put it on the floor, take a cushion off the couch, and that's your mindful space, right? Doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to take up a lot of space. Maybe it's where you drink your tea or your coffee in the morning. Maybe it's where you charge your phone so you can put on some nice relaxing music or light a candle. So all you really need is a tiny space on the floor, preferably against a wall. And then you put your little vase there and your candle and a place to drop your tea and a place to throw a pillow on the floor. And that's where you would commit to practicing either alone or with your child or adolescent. And so it's really important that before we go ahead and encourage our children, we make sure that we can commit to this on our own, right? And so we need, as caretakers, because I'm sure many of you, you're probably somewhere, I'm guessing, in your 20s to 60s, right? You might be taking care of elderly parents, you might be taking care of children, you might be taking care of people at work. So we're caretakers, right? And it's really important that we take 2 to 3 times a day, preferably 3 times a day, right? And you might say, I don't have 3 times a day, Carin, that's just not happening. Well, we all have 2 minutes, even if you have to lock yourself in the bathroom to take care of yourself. So every morning, putting on your own seatbelt first. If that means, my alarm tomorrow morning is set for 6:15, right? And that includes my mindful practice time. So if I knew my children were getting up at 6:20, I don't have children, by the way. This is my child right here, Sunny, my dog. But if I was going to set my alarm for 6:15, I have helped raise children though, many children, as the oldest of 7, etc. But if I needed to wake up before my children, I would set my alarm for 6:05, 5:55 probably, giving myself at least 20 minutes of uninterrupted time, even if it was taking away from my sleep, because that mindful time is going to actually be more restorative than sleep on many levels. So the first thing is every morning, even if it's just 8 minutes, 4 minutes, something that you can put on a song, you can connect with your breath, and you can sit and do a seated practice. In the middle of the day, right? If your job is stay-at-home mom or dad, or you're taking care of the house, that can be really overwhelming too. There's tons of things to do around the house. It seems to never end, right? So whether you're out working or caring for your home, taking time to take a break during the day when the children are at school. Many people work on their phones through their lunch break. They go on the computer on their lunch break. So taking at least one meal a day where there's no technology. My uncle has a lot of children in their 30s, and they have to put all their phones in a bucket before dinner. I think that's a really great idea, like the phone bucket before dinner, and then take that bucket and put it in another room so that you can have a nice mindful dinner. And then the evening, after your children are in bed or even before, go in your room, lay in bed, stare at the ceiling, do some breathing practices. I'm going to share with you some videos that you can just turn on and listen to that you can do lying down for yourself. And then family practices. So, inviting your children if they're open. Again, do not push this on your children. We don't want this to feel forced. The best way you can do is just model it and say, wow, that mindfulness practice really relaxed me this morning, It lowered my anxiety, whatever you authentically feel, whatever way to help you, share that with your children. Before dinner is a great time to do like a gratitude circle. Like, let's all just close our eyes, take a breath. And whatever routines you have in your home, if you have a spiritual practice before dinner, a gratitude practice, that's great. It's a great time to take a breath. Doesn't take long. I mean, obviously you don't want the food to get cold, so maybe just a minute before you eat. And in the evening, you can also do the visualizations. You can do the breath with the affirmations. Another time that's great for working with your children on this is during a family trip, having digital detox time, saying like, we're not going to use our phones on Sunday from, after breakfast until after lunch. And from like 11 to 3, we're going to have a family hike, and we're going to, not be on our phones during this hike. And then when you get to the top of wherever you're hiking to, sitting down and taking a breath together. Or maybe you just take the breath and they follow your lead. It depends on their ages, how receptive they're going to be to it. Especially, preparing before or after a stressful event, like a test. The children are going to be more open to learning this when there's a need, when there's a need. Like, let's say they're afraid to go to the dentist, you might want to do this breath in the parking lot of the dentist's office, or on the way to the dentist or the night before. Or if they have a big, state test coming up, doing this as they're studying, going in their room, checking on them. How you doing? Oh, you're stressed. I've been doing this thing. It's really helped me a lot. So again, your testimony is really important. Another thing is learning to pause. I'm sure as parents, we all have these like moments of frustration, right? Where we feel like we want to react unmindfully rather than respond peacefully. So we teach about 12 different lessons that we train teachers in. They're 40-minute lessons that the teachers can bring into their own classrooms. And one of their favorites that's applicable to themselves, often teachers say, is the reacting versus responding lesson, which teaches us to notice when we're getting agitated at our partners, at our colleagues, at our friends, at our children, at our students, and just pause and just notice sensation in the body. Notice that maybe our heart's racing faster. We're feeling agitated. We're feeling this justified anger that we want to, you're wrong, I'm right, like that, and when we get to that point, it can be very, very helpful. Just allow ourselves to feel that feeling. Part of mindfulness is learning to hold space in the container of our own hearts and our own guts and our minds, for uncomfortable feelings, and just breathing in and saying, breathing in, I'm noticing I'm frustrated. And breathing out, I'm noticing I'm frustrated. Breathing in, noticing my frustration. And breathing out, noticing my frustration. Right? You might do that in the morning when you're getting your children ready, as you're pouring your coffee and making lunches, like breathing in, I'm noticing the feeling of being rushed. Breathing out, I'm noticing the feeling of being rushed. Mindfulness is a lot about leaving things undone. Like there's probably going to be a rare day when the bills are all paid, the laundry's all folded, the dishes are not in the sink, or they're not in the dishwasher and don't have to be put away. Like how rare is it that you have all your laundry done, all your dishes done, the house is swept, there's no dog or cat hair anywhere. Everyone's just peaceful and you can finally relax, Hardly ever. So mindfulness is really about learning to pause in the middle, to leave things undone. There's a book called After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, but it's like during the laundry, the ecstasy. Sometimes folding laundry is not my thing. I'm just not that into it. And it's my job in my household, my job. One of my jobs is folding laundry. So I've learned to put on my favorite podcast. I've learned to breathe as I'm folding the shirts. There's a great teacher named Thich Nhat Hanh, from Vietnam, and he recently passed away, but he's a really brilliant man, nominated by Martin Luther King for the Nobel Peace Prize. That's how cool he is. And he says, mindful dishwashing, chop wood, carry water mindfully. And so as we're washing dishes, we can learn to wash the dishes mindfully. We get stressed from doing things that we dislike. And as adults in middle age, right? Most of what we do, we probably don't like, unless we're like bathing down on the beach in Santa Cruz, or, you know, I don't know, hiking a mountain or whatever it is that you like to do, watching your favorite baseball game, right? That's not going to cause you stress because you like it, right? But mowing the lawn, that might cause you stress because maybe you don't like it. So we have to learn how to integrate mindfulness into activities that we just dislike, and learn to embrace them, because a big chunk of our life is going to be doing things that are uncomfortable or difficult or hard work. And so we can utilize this mindfulness to calm and soothe the nervous system and make it integrative. So it's not just a seated practice in the morning. It's how do we interface with the world? How do we treat each other? How do we learn to pause and avoid conflict in those moments of heightened emotions, right? Cool. So lastly is, and I have to end, I know that I have 4 minutes left, so I'm going to end with this. Why don't we meditate? Everyone shares the same reason. I'm too busy. I'm not good at it. My mom won't just start thinking. And we just have to make the time. We have to stop, leave the dishes in the sink, leave the laundry undone, let the house be chaotic for a moment, close the door to your bedroom or the bathroom or wherever you can find peace, and just breathe. Just breathe. Just find a sacred space for yourself to find peace. And once you've done it for yourself, you'll be able to do that for your family too. So that's my tip for the new year. Put our own seatbelts on first, take care of ourselves, be a role model, get those mirroring neurons going. And then when your children see the change in you, they're going to want to join you. And your children might be open to it right away, and you have this whole handout to help you. Stopping our mind is like stopping the waves in the ocean. They just keep going, and we have to learn to roll with them. There's some musical resources on your handout. These are some things that I enjoy. Ocean Waves for Sleep on Spotify. I love Enya. Here's some things if you want to invest in mindfulness and get a mindful bell or some aromatherapy. You can get it for cheap on Amazon, also in your handout. And here's some apps. A lot of folks like calm.com and Headspace. We also have a website that I can show you, and there's also some book resources. So on our website, we have these mindful videos that you can play. It's my voice leading the visualization so the whole family can watch them. I'll show you what that looks like. Start to feel settled. Make sure you're in a comfortable seated position. So there's the visualization videos that you can watch. Also in the chat, I'm going to give you a link to Thinkific. And this link right here, oh, I put it in hosts and panelists. So Bev, if you could share that with everyone. And the code is Parent Venture for free access 24. So if you'd like to register for our online Mindful Parent Teacher Summit, that's a free code to get a scholarship. It was filmed in 2020 during the pandemic, but I interviewed a whole bunch of really incredible folks, like Dr. Doty over at Stanford, who else? John Gray, Shauna Shapiro, who teaches at Santa Clara University. Lots of experts in the field of mindfulness from around the Bay Area. So those are our videos. That's our parent workshop. I think that somebody asked for the slides. Is that correct? Sure, I could share my slides. That's no problem. I'm going to throw these slides, the slide link in the chat. Anyone with the link can view the slides. And you have the handout. I think that's it. Those are the resources. I'm going to stop my share. Oh, my contact information is on the screen here. So if you want to email me, it's also on the handout. It's Carin like Marin @missionb.org. That is my cell phone number. If you want to give me a call, that's going to go right to my cell because it's easier than checking the office, the office phone. So that's it. I'm going to stop my share and do some Q&A. Thank you.
Well, actually, Carin, we have come to the end of our hour together. So let me just ask you one quick question that came up in the chat, and then we're going to have to close for the night. A parent asked if you have a suggestion for the count with your breath exercises. Is there a preferred count?
Yeah, so a normalizing breath is like a 5 and 5. So you breathe in for 5 and breathe out for 5. That's a normalizing. If you want to get a little bit more relaxed, you can deepen the inhale and deepen the exhale. So if you're like trying to go to sleep and you're up at night and you're having anxious thoughts, you can breathe in for 7 and breathe out for 8. If that feels too long, like 7 and 8 are too long, you can just do a 5 and 6 breath or a 6 and 7 breath. The goal is to get the exhale and inhale to be at least a count of 5. So if you do 6 breaths in it'd be about a minute. If you do a 5 and 5 breath, 6 breaths would be finished in about a minute. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Carin. You've given us so much to think about tonight, breathing exercises, mindfulness ideas, ways to involve the family. So again, everybody, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We will be sending a recording of this video to all of you who registered. Look at all those nice emojis coming up. And Carin generously shared the slides. We will also include that link for the handout for those of you who may not have been able to watch it or read it during the presentation. We thank you all for being with us tonight, and we thank you, Carin, for a great presentation. Take care, everybody, and we hope you'll take some of the mindfulness breaks that Carin Winter has suggested tonight. Hope to see you again soon. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.